Amazing. So while she was having a session, she mentioned a particular website that you can check your personality. Who can remember? Who can tell us? 16 personalities. All right. So please let's not forget that we can do that on the website. Now, before we move on to the next session, we're just going to quickly have an interactive segment now. Just ask one or two questions. And if you get the questions correctly, if you have the correct answer, I can assure you that on behalf of the convener, we have gifts for you if you get the answers correctly. Very quickly, about 2 or 3 questions. The very first question is, what was the title of the session that the first speaker had? If you just know the answer, just raise up your hand confidently. First speaker session, what was the title? Please just tell us your name and your... Okay.
My name is Tom. The first speaker spoke on the power of self-discovery as it relates to personal development.
Okay, she said the first speaker spoke on the power of self-discovery. Congrats. Is that correct? Let's confirm. Is she correct? Oh, she's correct. Very well. Thank you very much. Congratulations. So the convener just messaged me now. You just won for yourself. Let me check very well. Let me open my eyes to check very well. So you just won for yourself 100,000. Yeah, you just won for 800. Please let's clap for her now. You're wondering. You just open. Calm down now. You just won for yourself 800,000. Please let's applaud that once again. 100,000. Go easy. Let me check the currency. On post currencies. Let me check. Okay, actually, it's actually Mozambique City. Actually, so sorry about that. All right, hold on. Thank you for paying attention. We really appreciate it. So that was just a very much needed icebreaker. So right now we're gonna have another session. The next speaker is still going to be telling us how to work with the tech part very well. The person that spoke now shared a lot of things about starting a career in tech. It's actual. I know some of us were taking notes and all, but we have to years your tech career. So the career in tech, the vital things, discover your personality. Tech is not for everybody. Don't be like the tech brother, just put a lot of profile on his Instagram, CEO of this, CEO for everybody. But once you discover your personality and you can do this, so it's very fine. So I would like to invite right now the next speaker. Please, do we have our profile? If you have our profile, I would like to have the profile for the next speaker. But her name is Adaora Nwodo. I believe I got that correctly. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So the next speaker is Sheifumi Olaoye. Do we have our profile already here? Okay. Sheifumi Olaoye, as you can see, she's a female. And she's going to be speaking, as you can see. All right. So Sheifumi Olaoye is our next speaker. She's a very, very vast tech person. She's going to tell you a lot about herself when she comes up here. This session is going to go for 15 minutes. You can see that we're having short sessions so that it can be very, very impactful. That's why we chose to do this. So Sheifumi is going to be sharing with us vital things as regards growing your tech career and a lot of other important things. But on Tech Festival 2022, please let's give up for Shay. Please, you still come. You can still applaud her. Let's just keep clapping for her. All right, you're welcome.
Hi, everybody. Where am I supposed to stand? No, I'm not going to see my slides. Everybody, hello. I'm Sheifumi Olaoye. I'm going to allow everybody to decide what I do at the end of my presentation. But basically, I'm going to be sharing with you guys software testing in a nutshell. Because, we are in a tech fair here. So at some point, we should really get technical. Because if we are all, or if some of us here are considering a viable career in tech, that means some of the things we do in tech, we should have an idea of what it's like, right? So I'm going to be sharing with us software testing in a nutshell. Are my slides ready? So again, I'm Sheifumi Olaoye. I'm a software tester. Whatever that means to you. Anybody heard about what software testing is? Does anybody know what software testing is? Have you heard about software testing? Please raise your hands. Software testers in this building. I'm not proud. Are you not proud of your career paths? Okay, no problem. Anyways, for the sake of those who probably do not know what software testing is or do not really understand what software testing is, I'm to try to, as is supposed to go really technical, but I'm going to try my best possible to make it make sense to whoever is here so that even if you don't consider it as a viable career, you would have something to say about it. So yeah, let's get to it. I'll be doing my best to simplify software testing, and I'm going to be speaking from the perspective of someone who does testing every day, like every day, literally. Software testing is what I do. Yeah, so so in this presentation, I'm going to be sharing with you testing. Basically, was testing. I'm going to talk about testing in various industries because I've come to understand that testing is not just the technology industry or information and technology industry. Apparently testing is everywhere. So we are going to be discussing testing in various industries. We are going to be discussing testing in the technology industry, which is why we're here. We are also going to be discussing what is software testing, software architecture explained, different types of testing on architecture levels, software testing lifestyle, and lastly, I'm going to be talking about software testing as a viable career in tech. So when we talk about testing, next slide please. When we talk about testing, just testing is not unique to the technology industry. Testing is almost in everything we do. In the medical industry, take for instance, you go to a doctor, I'm quite sure they will request is that you do it to get an accurate prognosis of what might be wrong with you, right? So that means there is some sort of testing in the medical industry, right? In the aviation industry, the aeronautics, to some extent, up to a very large extent, not even to some extent, there's also some kind of testing that goes on. They test the plane for stress test, they test the plane for altitude tests, and just about every test that is required for a plane to be good enough to actually fly. I think we had someone in one of our speaker who actually works in the aviation industry. So yeah, he can tell us what more tests they do in that regard. But to the best of my knowledge, there is a type of testing that actually goes on in that industry just to ensure that the plane is ready or the plane is usable. In the plastic manufacturing industry as well, there are some sort of test that goes into it. In the plastic manufacturing industry as well, there are some sort of test that goes into it. I recently learned that in plastic production, there's something called drop test. You drop the plastic from a particular height to the ground to determine the durability, to determine so many things. Again, it's not my field, so I don't know the words in total. But what I'm just trying to say is that there is a type of testing that goes into that industry. And you will all agree with me. Imagine imagine these industries did not have to do tests. Take for instance the aviation industry. There was no test carried on the plane. What danger do you think it would have happened? There could be loss of life. There could be loss of properties. Such deadly implications of lack of test, right? Same with the medical industry, wrong prognosis. Imagine somebody drug for headache. Same with the plastic manufacturing industry. So now, let's now bring it to the technology industry or the information and technology industry. And we're talking about software testing. Software testing is basically all the activities that is involved in ensuring that a software product meets the requirements. Please, not yet to give the all theoretical aspects, as you can always Google it to know what software testing is, but basically give the all theoretical aspects, as you can always Google it to know what software testing is, but basically all the activities that you need to do to ensure that a software product does what it's supposed to do is what we call software testing. Now, software testing goes into quality assurance, ensuring that from the beginning of the product, or even from the ideology stage, there are some sort of testing that needs to be carried out up until when the product is ready to go live. So again, there are some sort of testing that needs to be carried out up until when the product, bringing it to our technology industry. Software testing is basically all the activities that you need to carry out to ensure that a software product meets its user needs or meets the requirements. My next slide, please. So again, since we are talking software, it would be very good for us to have an idea of a software architecture. I mean, many of us may be familiar of how a software is built. I mean, you have a nice idea of maybe the next $1 million application that you want to build. You get a business analyst to help you see if this idea is going to sell. You probably get a designer, a product manager, a software developer, and you probably have an idea of how software come to life. But there is a bit more technical aspect as to how softwares actually come to being. Now, if you see this diagram, there is this last bit which has something like a cylinder. It's called the database level. On the database level, what's immediately sitting on it are microservices, that is different services that makes up a major service basically. And then you have the API gateway, and on the topmost level, you have the user interface, or let me call it the client side. I would categorize this diagram into three major parts. The database part and the microservice part, I'm going to call that the backend. API part, allow me call that the middleware. And then the topmost part, which is the web client, IoT, and mobile client, allow me call that the user interface. Now, I'm going to explain this, yeah? The DB and the microservices, again, allow me call it the backend bit. The backend, again, backend is where all the things that in terms of infrastructure, in terms of everything that the application sits on, that the user necessarily do not need to know how it's done. Let's call that the backend. Again, I'm trying to explain this in very simple terms, so forgive my use of words. The API bit, let's call that the one who helps transmit requests from the back end to the front end. Now, the front end is very simple. The reason why you can see the application on your phone is because you're basically seeing the front end. That's very simple. The front end is what the end users eventually get to interact with. But beyond that UI, beyond the user experience, there's actually a back end. And the API basically just helps send requests from the front end to the back end and from the back end to the front end. Again, this is very, very necessary in helping you to understand how software tests. I'm sure by now you should even have questions in your head that, okay, how does software test comes to me? But this is the software architecture, and these different layers are actually testable layers. Please, my next slide. This slide is supposed to be explaining what backend is, what middleware is, and what front end is, which I think is something I already explained. Again, the middleware, go back please. Let me just buttress on that middleware bit. Again, the middleware links the front end and the back end of the system together. It acts as a bridge. It sends networks, HTTP requests from the back end to the front end, and then user requests from the front end also to the back end. So my next slide, please. So I'm back to this software architecture. Again, don't forget where we are coming from. We are talking about software testing, yeah? We already looked at the different industries where testing happens, and we brought it home that in the technology industry, testing also happens. And so we are talking about software. It was important that we saw a software architecture so that we can have an idea of how testing is done based on the different layers of the software architecture. So I circled some things. In the database field, there is the database testing. In the microservices field, there is this field, there is the database testing. In the microservices field, there are different types of tests there. There is the gRPC test, there is the unit test, acceptance testing, functionality testing, and just about any testing that comes. But I intentionally just circled around these ones because I just want to buttress testing based on software architecture. Again, there are so many different types of software. There are so many different types of software testing out there, which you would get to do as time goes on in your career. But since we are talking about software architecture, is the reason why I just circled out this. So my next thing, what's a database? For the sake of this gathering, a database is database, where data is stored, where data is where information is retrieved, where data house basically. Again, if you're not sure about my debate. So the kind of testing we do on the database level is, we do validation checks. Example, on your device, on your banking application, you send a request, you say that you want to check your account balance. What happens is that request is sent via what now? Let me see if people were paying attention. Who helps us send your request to the backend? Who helps us send your request to the backend? Who helps us? The middleware. So it sends that request to the backend and says, oh, Alima wants to get account balance. The backend returns that information to, again, will help us with that return of information. The middleware, yeah. And where is that information coming from? Backend. But in this case, where is that data coming from? The database. Thank you. So that's basically what data is. Where is that data coming from? The database. Thank you. So that's basically what database is. So the kind of checks we do on the database is we want to make sure, we want to make sure that data is properly stored in the right data table for the particular user. Want to query the database. What if I do this? What if I select this user account from this table? What is supposed to be my response? Such checks we do on the database. My next slide, please. Again, please don't forget where we are coming from. These testing types are from the software architecture that I circled, and that's what I'm just basically explaining. Now, this is unit test. I don't know why the diagram is not showing. Now, this is unit test. Unit test is basically testing the smallest unit of your code to see that it's going to perform what you want it to perform, to see that it's going to do what you intend it to do. So you are basically using code to test code, basically. So that's what unit test is. Many times in unit testing, it's a developer, not necessarily a software tester now, that does unit testing. Some software testers do, and in my case, I actually do unit testing on gRPC request. gRPC request, again, don't forget, who remembers microservices now? Microservices, since you have different services, for instance, you have on a banking application, you are going to have a feature like transactions, right? You are going to have a, right? You are going to in them. And for these different methods, you can actually test it to ensure that if a request is sent to this service using this method, is it going to return the right information? Is it going to return the right data? So you can test a unit as in a particular method in that service. Are you guys following? All right, thank you. You can test a particular method in that service to ensure that if you send this particular request, is it going to return the right thing? Majorly, because it's gRPC unit test, it's usually something like garbage in, garbage out. Again, Google is your friend. Next slide, please. You said I have 15 minutes, right? Is it 15 minutes? Okay. Oh, more than, are you guys giving me extra time? I can talk about testing for the rest of the day. Okay, API testing. Remember what we called API? We said for the sake of this gathering, we are calling APIs transmit, what's it called now? Network calls from the back end to the front end, right? So API test, again, there are different tests that goes into API test. You also want to do functionality checks. And like you would in case of gRPC test, you are also checking that perform a particular action on this API. Does it return the right data? And is it also in the right format? You want to do certain checks like that. Let's say, for instance, you have an application where it's a form. You're supposed to enter a form. Let's say in that form there is the username, there is the email, the password. What other things are usually in forms? There's the username, emails, and there is the address. So that's like 4 fields, right? When you're doing the API test, that is the request that calls that API, one thing you want to check is this thing is supposed to return 4 fields. Let's assume that all those 4 fields are required fields. This thing is supposed to return 4 fields. So you need to validate in your API response that is it actually returning this number of fields, and the rest, the response of the data, is it also in the right format? Again, these are some of the checks that you do on APIs. The next slide, please. Okay, it would be a fail talking about software testing without actually talking about software testing lifecycle. One thing biology taught us is that in the life cycle of a butterfly, I think they say that it was first a bug, a moth, whatever it is. They showed us that diagram where the butterfly was growing from different stages to different stages, and in all those stages there are different characteristics in all those things, right? Any biology student here? I've done biology in quite a while. Any biology student here? Okay. In all those stages, there are different characteristics, right? Same thing when you bring it to software testing stages or software testing life cycle. There's the requirement gathering phase. And this requirement gathering phase is basically to test an application, or sorry, scratch that. There is an application, or It's not yet an application, it's still under development. There is the requirement gathering phase, and that requirement gathering phase basically is you are gathering as many product requirements that you would be needing to help, to do informed understanding of how to carry out your tests. So you are connecting with your PRDs, you are connecting with your product manager to get you the PRDs. You are reading PRDs, looking at whatever documents, even if you need to make research. All of these processes are what we call the requirement gathering phase. And then the test planning phase. What is a straight test without having a plan? So you need to plan. You need to plan, basically, you are planning how you want to carry out the test. There is also the test case development phase. This is the point where you now begin to write your documentation about how or the different scenarios that you can a particular feature. And then there is the testing environment setup phase. This is the time or the period where you put different tools that are going to help you to test this application. Again, don't forget where we are coming from. We're coming from database testing. That means there should be a tool that helps with database, right? Or there should be a platform where you can actually test databases. So maybe it's a MongoDB or maybe it's an SQLDB. There should be such tool or such time where you actually set this up so that you can write your queries in that database. Does anyone follow what I'm saying? Yeah. So you do whatever setup, whatever tool that you need to set up in order to set up your application. So that's test environment phase. And then there is the test execution phase. This test execution phase, like the name implies, is the point where you now carry out the test, where you now actually run your test cases, where you now actually test, or where you now actually carry out your test plan. And then there is the circle project, the circle closure phase. This phase is where when you are sure or you think that, okay, I've done enough tests on this application and now it's ready to go. So my next slide, please. Okay, so this for me is the most important part of this my conversation. I'm just really going to talk about software testing, important part of this my conversation. I'm just really going to talk about software beginning again. We saw that even though there are different what's it called now, industries to which testing is carried out, we saw that in the software testing, in the software industry or in the technology industry, testing is also carried out. And one thing we also saw is that there can be tremendous danger as a result of improper testing or lack of testing at all. This means that software testing or software tester is say that if product is not properly tested, it could lead to loss of lives. It could lead to loss of business. It could lead to loss of revenue. It could lead to as many serious issues as you can think of. So that means that a software QA engineer or a software tester, whatever thing you're going to call the name, is actually very, very important in a software engineering team. So what does a software tester do? From everything I've explained, we already know what a software tester do. From the definition, we want to ensure that a software product actually meets its required needs. Who can become a software tester? Anybody can become a software tester. I know one thing Oreme said, which I really agree to. When it comes to deciding in tech, you really need to find out what you like to do. I'm quite stubborn. I like looking for trouble. So it was easy for me to dance into the software testing field because as a software tester, basically the most of what you're going to be doing is questioning, why is this like this? Why are we writing it like this? Why are we doing it like this? You are going to be having to question so many things because if you don't question, your users are going to question. And if your users are questioning, that's actually a bad face on your product. So who can become a tester? Anybody can become a tester. If you like trouble, if you like to ask questions, if you are very inquisitive. Again, these are some of the soft skills of a software tester. If you pay attention to every detail, I don't mean to say if you're a perfectionist, but maybe if you are, I don't know. But if you like to pay attention to every detail, you can be a software tester. How to become a software tester? The answer is very simple. Join Testify, take courses online, read up on what software testing is, take up dummy projects and practice on those dummy projects, and just exercise your skills, flex your idea of what you think a software tester does. Why become a software tester? I'm going to leave you people to answer the last question. Why should you be a software tester? If you care about the face of your product, if you care about the face of your product, if you care about technology, if you care about making things work, because at the end of the day, that's what technology is about, making things work. People have brilliant ideas and they just want to make our lives easy. Technology today is not the same in the 90s, it's not the same in the 80s. Life has become easier with the use of technology, right? So, why become a software tester? We want to ensure that everything that has to do with the software works as it should and it meets our expectations or user expectations. So I think that is all that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. Already telling my time is up. I think that's all I'm going to be sharing with you guys about software testing in a nutshell. Thank you for having me. You have questions? All right. I forgot to ask. So now, can you tell me what I do? Because I didn't bother introducing myself. So what am I? All right. Thank you. Yes. So there are different areas in software. It helps to understand how development works. Oh, did you hear his question? Okay, he asked if it's necessary to understand how development works. So I'm going to answer that. Yes, it is necessary. It is necessary because if you don't understand how it works, you can't question it. And in as a software tester, nobody questions you for being inquisitive. So questions you for being inquisitive, because a soft skill of a software tester is asking questions, and you may not know the nitty gritty. Um, no, not exactly. The reason is because the software tester's aim is very simple. You know, I said something there. I said I like looking for trouble, right? It also means that when you're software, an API, you're a backend developer, I want to see that API fail. I want to see it return the wrong request. So I'm going to do everything possible, like removing a field that was supposed to be, removing a required field that was supposed to be there. That's the test case. I'm going to do that. If I'm supposed to put certain things in the sense to you, exactly. So we are doing the reason why we do that test is you can never predict a user's application. It can be very, very crazy. So you are thinking of possible scenarios to actually spoil the application. And when I spoil it, I'll come and meet you that you have cooked beans. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Any more questions?
Thank you very much, Shapon. Please, can we applaud that once again? Please, let's put our hands together for Shapon for me once again. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the young man that asked the questions. Hello, sir. Hello. Are you okay with the answers? Or you are more? I can see you're holding a full scarf, so let's be very sure. If you still have a lot of questions written down there. All right, thank you very much. Yes, we would still take questions. We are still going to have panel sessions where we get to interact. So, Sheifumi has shared with us what exactly software testing is. Software testing in a nutshell. So, just like she mentioned, we can make research as well. I mean, we can make findings. We can even apply for courses. Testify. Actually, they do a lot in software testing. That's the organizers of this event. You can see, you can apply and learn. Before you know it, in the next 4 or 5 months or thereabout, you're already making impact and also moving forward. So you can learn from them as well. Testify and all other organizations that you are aware of. That we are going to be having a session online first before the digital market. She's going to give us specific tips on how to grow your tech career. Specific tips, like in bullet points. How exactly do you grow your tech career? You want to be a digital marketer, a graphic designer, a software tester. You want to go into coding, Python, Anaconda, anyone. So how do you grow your tech career? Yes, I know that it's Python, so I think there should be Anaconda as well. All right. So our speaker is actually Adaora Unwodo. She's going to be sharing with us tips on how to grow your tech career. If you're here, please let's just try as much as possible to pay attention. I think she's online already, so we'll just quickly start. Are we ready? Okay.
I wouldn't be putting on my camera. I don't know if I told you. Okay, I don't think I told you. I'm very young. So I'm not going to use my camera. Share it so that, so that everyone can see. Please, can someone in the background just like let me know when my screen is full? I really love to see to show my face and for y'all to see my face perfect. I'm feeling well today, so I'm thankful for that. But I'm excited to do it. Sorry, just a minute. It's okay. Okay, let me know when I can go on. Okay, I think you're good to go. Okay, thanks. So I was saying, I'm excited to be here today, and I hope that this talk is very useful to you, and you learn a lot from it. So yeah, without any further ado, let's just get right in. My name is Adora, and I'm currently doing engineering at Microsoft. I am a multi-published author as well. I wrote a book called Engineering for Beginners last year. Have a couple more books coming up. The most recent one that I announced is the book on Azure DevOps that should come out early next year as well. So there is that. I also, run some communities. I am a digital creator, so you find me posting content on Instagram, YouTube. I also have like a digital store on Bella where I post some things. And in my job, I do software engineering, cloud engineering, infrastructure engineering, compliance, like security stuff, and some DevOps. So I basically move with the wind because I have like context in all these engineering areas, so I'm able to take on new roles and switch roles. Um, I'm also on the board for the VRAR Association in Nigeria, and to our goal is to promote AR technologies in the region. So now and you can find me on Twitter at Adora. My handle is down there. My handle is going to be on every page on this presentation. Oh no, it's not, but my handle is Adora Odo. You can find it anywhere. So in this talk, I'll be talking about what the career ladder is, just giving you an inside view into my Microsoft work history, telling you about the steps for climbing the career ladder and growing in your career. A social media sensation, and they keep piggyback, they keep riding on that thing. Um, that social media has sort of created for them, and you people are being deceived and might not realize it, because there's a lot that requires career growth and climbing up the ranks in career ladder, and it's usually mostly about impact and values, which translates to either better, higher paying jobs in bigger roles because you are switching companies, or promotions in your overall. And I just want to give a quick disclaimer that this talk is not in any way about branding. I'm not talking about building a personal brand. I believe in personal branding, but I like the idea of personal branding because of the idea of passive income as external streams of income. I believe that having a personal brand unlocks other streams of income for you, partnerships, working with other companies where you can start to make money, exposure, and things like that. However, it has no effect, and I can say this, quote me anywhere, it has no effect on your career progression. And I'm going to use examples of leaders and people that we look up to and care so much about. The first person I'd like to talk about is the first set of people I'd like to talk about are CEOs of big tech companies that we care about. The CEO of Google, Sundar, the CEO of Microsoft, Satya, um, the CEO of Nvidia, and all these big companies. I'm talking about CEOs that grew into the position, not people that founded the company. So I'm not talking about Meta, because Meta is Mark's company, right? But when you look at all these other people, they climbed career ladders and they got to that progression, they got to that skill level. And that's the funny thing. Like, if you check someone anywhere, if you go for like a professional meeting or professional conference, you'll always see managing director, because the person, as they're growing in their career, the branding comes with the growth. But if you take only branding single-handedly, it has no effect in your career growth. And I'm hammering on this because I really don't understand what you're caring about. If you care about career growth, focus on building your career. Branding has no effect. If, like me, you like money, sure, go and do personal branding and then create extremes of income for yourself and stuff like that. But that's a whole different conversation. So now I'm going to talk about my work history. I joined Microsoft in August 2019. Before I joined Microsoft, I was working at an advertising agency as a software developer as well. I worked there for about 3 years. Yeah, it was actually exactly 3 years, 2016 to 2019. So I worked there for 3 years and then I joined Microsoft. And I've been in Microsoft for 3 years and a couple months now. It's going to be 4 years early of it's going to be 4 years early next year. In my job at Microsoft, I've gotten promoted a couple times, and I I'm excited to give this talk because I joined Microsoft on one of like the early career stage levels, and I've been growing into roles since I joined. I didn't join as a senior person. I joined and I grew into some roles, and I'm going to be talking about things that I've realized that are things that matter in case you are looking to growing into roles as well in different tech companies that you find yourself. Since I joined Microsoft, I've worked on different things. I've worked on devices, I've worked on the cloud, I've been a backend engineer, a DevOps person, I've done a little bit of cybersecurity. I've dabbled around basically. And in my interactions with people, in watching how, the company is structured, in learning a few things from different people, there are some things that I have learned. And one of the things is that as you grow, your path is always either going to take two turns. Most times people start as individual contributors, especially early career, because being a manager requires you to have some certain skills that early career you don't have. Let's be honest with yourself. Soft skills, some people skills, some leadership skills, things that you learn over time that when you graduate from university, you don't necessarily have. So hold on. A manager. And like I said, as when you enter a certain level, sorry, hold on one sec. Like I said, when you enter a new company as entry level, you usually first start as an individual contributor because management skills have to learn with time. Um, but as you grow, you can decide to keep being an individual contributor, or you can decide that you want to become a manager. And when you make that decision, it will inform in the kind of work that you do and things like that. If you are an individual contributor, it's going to be focused on the work that you are supposed to be doing, the technicalities of the work, and just that. But as a manager, either as a people manager or a business manager, as a business manager, you care more about the business depending on whatever center you're managing. And as a people manager, you would care more about the people that report to you, your directs and things like that. So most times you start as an IC, that's what an individual contributor is called across different big tech companies. Then as you grow, you could have the, then as you grow, you could have the option of also becoming a people manager. So now that you know what the steps are, I've talked a little bit about myself and I put out that disclaimer. So now that you know what the steps are, I've talked a little bit about myself and I put out that disclaimer about what this talk is going to be about. Let's look at what the steps are for climbing the career ladder. The first thing is that it's important to study yourself. And I'm saying this because I've seen a lot of people take career advice from people that have seemingly successful careers, and the advice they take ends up not working for them. And this is because, contrary to what you might think, human beings are not really great at giving you the advice that you need. we always project ourselves into our advice, basically. And what's going to happen is that you would end up doing exactly what that person would have done, and it might not work for you because your context is different. For example, I'm really good at writing, and I write books. I've written a ton of articles and things like that. And imagine if I told you that as an engineer, for you to be successful, you also have to be writing articles and sharing them on social media. And let's just imagine that you hate writing. But does that mean that your career will not grow if you attempt writing and you fail at it? Because I think writing is a way that will help you grow your career. So if you don't understand yourself and learn when and how to apply yourself into good advice, it will not work for you no matter how much good advice you get. The next thing I want to talk about is that you should build a network. Networking is very important. Your network and your track record is we are the two things that will help you grow your career, because when you network, either up or sideways, networking up means, networking with people that are better than you in their careers and they can help you, be your mentors, give you advice, all of that stuff. Networking sideways is networking with your peers. Your peers can point you to opportunities. If you want to move to a new company, or sometimes can program with you, can solve problems with you, can be that rubber duck that can help you discover a solution, and maybe you just need a push or something, can expose you to someone else that will give you an opportunity and things like that. You learn because you are around people. And people, I feel like people are the greatest resources in the world, because every other resource that we see as it was that people can network is on LinkedIn. I tell people, as much as you like to use other kinds of social media, if you do, when you're done with social media, when you're done with TikTok posting about how they help somebody's dog and they didn't realize the dog was the CEO, and see, yeah, all these nonsense that people post on LinkedIn. But if you can filter through that and create a good profile for yourself and connect with the right people and post important, you would you would get noticed. And LinkedIn is built for professional networking. That's exactly what that platform is for. So use it to your advantage. Use it to attract people to you. Use it to create professional relationships that can help you in the near future. I know the kind of people and connections that I've made through LinkedIn. And I know that at some point in my career, very soon, these relationships will be more valuable to me than ever. Network at events as well. I know that this event that you are at is very great, and I really appreciate all of you showing up for this. And kudos to the organizers. It's not really easy to put up something like this, to put it together. As you are at an event like this, apart from all the learning that you are doing, also make sure that you are what's it called? Also make sure that you are networking apart from learning. It's very important. Online events, offline events, and LinkedIn. Use those three platforms to network to your advantage. The next thing is that you should document a lot of things. And documenting helps you with having receipts. You need this, especially when it's time for promotion emails. But at the same time, it's better to be safe than sorry, just in case you don't really have the best manager. Because you might want to have receipts and say, I worked on this, I did this, and now I want my promotion. You should be able to document things so that you have receipts, and you should have that confidence to be able to ask for a promotion. It's time for promotion cycle and you feel like you have contributed impactfully to the business and you deserve one. The next one is that you should focus on impact. The impact you need. If you, for example, if they told Ene to build a team that had built a tool that was similar to that and integrated with that tool and did all of that in like one function, which is like 6 lines of code, and the tool is what is doing the major work. And Nene finished her work in 2 days. And Adora went to go and build an entirely new service and spent 3 months building that same thing. Although Adora has written more lines of code, arguably, Nene and Adora had the same amount of impact, because all they wanted was the result. Is the code working? Yes. And does it have issues? Does it put us in security problems? Do we have issues? We don't have issues. It works as it should. It's testable and everything is working fine. And it has impacted the organization at large. Good. So don't focus on being busy. Focus on being productive. Focus on making sure you are doing to do the same thing that you've been doing. How promotions work is that, are you performing at the level that you are supposed to be performing in exceptionally? If you tick that box, then the next question they will ask, are you performing at the next level that you should be in? And if the question is yes, then you are most likely to get promoted into that level. But nobody is going to pay you to be doing the same thing that you've been doing before. So you have to dream beyond your current job description. I've tried to make impact and add value beyond that so that the organization sees that and recommends and promotes you for it. It's still the same thing as thinking and acting a level above. And the last thing that I want to say is that you should be a good team player, because at the end of the day, your team gives you feedback. You work with people, you don't work alone. Even if you work alone, you work for customers. So at the end of the day, you're not the only one in this. You have at least one employer, one manager, one boss, one customer, one paying customer. There's someone else that is not you. So you need to learn to work with people and be interdependent, because as much as you are skilled, you don't have all the skills and you need other things that other people have. And when two people work together and they work really well, then they can achieve the greatest form of value. I hope that you've been able to learn from all of these things that I have said, and I hope that these things have been impactful to you. I will share these slides with the organizers so maybe they can share them with you if it's something that you would be interested in. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Please, can we applaud Adora once again? Thank you very much. Okay, yes, she's no longer in the meeting, but I believe that the convener would pass our message across. So right about now, we are going to have another session. Adora is taking us on a very vital session on tips to grow your tech career. If you really want to make it big and make it far in this field, she has shared vital things with us. So right now, we would have, I asked the question the other time about people that are involved or interested or that actually are passionate towards digital marketing. So there's a special session for you. In fact, if you have been trying to market digital products and you've not really had a kind of headway yet, so this session is for you. So we'd like you to pay attention. You can see that the session is all encompassing different sessions in this tech field. We would all enjoy and experience amazing sessions. So right now we have a session on Chronicles of Marketing a Digital Product. Chronicles of Marketing a Digital Product. And I'll quickly read the profile of the speaker very briefly so that we can move on. So our next speaker, his name is Olabinjo Adeniran. Olabinjo Adeniran is passionate about driving digital acquisition and retention programs for startups. He has a decade-long career in as a technology blogger, and this has spanned through managing several multi-channel digital campaigns in the travel, blockchain, media, community, and B2B spaces. Specialties are content marketing, search engine optimization, email marketing, search engine marketing, PPC campaigns, user acquisition and retention strategy, and digital communications. So Olapin just says he's always looking forward to bring his skills to a globally distributed team. So Ibadan Tech Festival 2022. Please can we put our hands together for our next speaker, Olabinjo Adeniran. Please let's give him a very, very resounding welcome. So before I hand over the microphone to him, he has been here since, I think since we started this event, he has just been here sitting calm. Please can we applaud him once again? Please. All right, so before you speak, sir, I just have a very short question. I like to ask my own question before the session. So those of us that sell things on WhatsApp status, are we digital marketers too? Like WhatsApp status? Please, I need information about that.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? Say hi. Okay, so I might have to reintroduce myself a little bit because they kind of use an older bio. But I'm very happy today because of all people that have spoken so far. I think I'm the only person that has wanted a tech career and has had a tech career. So you guys are very lucky, right? Can we go to the next slide, please? So our topic is Chronicles of Marketing a Digital Product. And first about me is I've basically spent the last 10 years working in technology companies in Africa, particularly Nigeria in different aspects. After working for a while, I co-founded a VC firm called Future Africa, and we, invested in about, I think it was $6.3 million in 60 startups. So I worked on the employee side of things and worked on the investment side of things as well. So I have a very broad range working in digital sector. Next slide, please. So today we're going to talk about chronicles of marketing a digital product. And the question is, how can we attract audiences? How can we sell to them? How can we retain them? And how can we continue to provide value to those audiences or to those customers? Yeah. And the reason we're doing this, the reason you want to understand how to market a digital product is because you don't want your company to die, right? When you start a company, you want to ensure that you're not only able to get customers, but you're able to keep the customers over the lifetime of the business. Next slide, please. Okay. We're going to be looking at this topic through the lens of a framework. And a framework is basically, it's a tool that helps us understand the concepts better, right? There are many frameworks in marketing technology products, but I've selected the AARR framework, also called the Pirate framework. So can everybody say R? Yeah, so it's the Pirate framework, right? And the framework was developed by a guy, a very nice guy called Dave McClure, sometimes in, I think, 2011 or 2012. He had been investing in startups, and he thought that, he was talking to a lot of founders and employees, and he realized that people were, they were reaching for the wrong goals, right? So the triple R framework came because he wanted to help people understand how to measure goals in their digital businesses. So we'll pick, can we go 2 slides? Yeah, okay, this one is fine. So the triple R framework has 6 parts, right? And retention, revenue, and referral. So can we say R again? So awareness, acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, and referral. So we'll take this one after the other. I will share some examples of each, and then we'll go to the next one. I want to leave about 5 minutes towards the end so we can have, some time for Q&A, right? So awareness is very simple. If you have a digital product, you need to find a way to make sure people know about your product, right? And awareness is the process where we let the prospective customer know that we exist. So I'm Testify, right? How do I let people who need software testing services know that I exist? Or I'm organizing the Ibadan Tech Festival. How do I let the people who are interested in tech in Ibadan know that this festival is happening and they need to attend? That's the awareness stage. And the awareness stage is where you do a lot of advertising work, right? But it can also be achieved even without advertising, right? It can be achieved by word of mouth. And word of mouth occurs when somebody is talking to another person about the product or the service. Second thing is people do door-to-door, right? So you find often that people will go to, say, supermarkets and get them to use their POS, right? That's door-to-door. That's one example. It can also be cold calling or cold emailing. So I find somebody online and I think that they want to use my service, right? Or I think my service solves a problem that they have. I can email them and say, oh, hi, my name is Binjo, and I can help you solve this problem that I can see that you clearly have. Look, we have multiple platforms in a way that provides value and educates these prospective customers. We also have partnerships, right? Partnerships are a way to ensure that other people know about a service. So if I have a product for employees of companies, right? I might want to partner with the HR departments of all those companies so that the employees can receive benefit and value. We have traditional advertising, which is, the regular advertising you see every day on the road, the billboards, the radio, the TV, the events. Those are traditional methods. And then awareness is basically really making a lot of noise, right? It often involves saying the same thing over and over and over again, or saying the same thing to a specific set of people who you have identified as the people who have a problem that you are solving. That's very important because many people make a lot of noise, but they make a lot of noise outside of the target customer. Then the next slide, and that brings us to acquisition, right? After you have made this noise and you have talked and talked and talked and talked, how do you then begin to convince the person to do something that benefits you as a business. And in acquisition, it occurs when we capture some information about the customer. The information essentially is something we can keep so that we can reach out to the customer and keep talking to them again and again. And this can be their name, it can be their email address, it can be a phone number. Basically, we want to convince somebody to give us information, like I said, so we can sell to them again. Can we have the next slide, which is a super important part? Okay. Activation is where things start to break, right? We talked about the triple R funnel. So we've done awareness, 1, acquisition, 2. Activation is where things start to break. And in activation, we want somebody to take an action or an event so that they can receive value from us as a business, but so that we can also receive value as a business, right? This needs to be a two-way street. We're getting something. It could be money, it could be the time they spend on our site, but they're also getting some value. And the reason activation is important is because many people focus too much on vanity metrics. Unfortunately, not an activation metric, right? You want someone to do one thing in your digital product. It can be an app, it can be a service, it can be a website that provides value. Keep in mind here that the word value is super important. So for example, I'm going to call some examples now, activation thing for them to do. Can somebody raise their hand and offer? If you're the one working at WhatsApp, the marketing, can you raise your hand and so that I can see you? Yes, please say. So they need to send a message, right? They need to be able to send a message from themselves to somebody on their contact list. The second thing I have on my list is downloading an ebook. So if you're selling an ebook, the point of value is not how many followers you have on Instagram, right? Or how many people follow you on Twitter. It's the actual number of people who are going to buy the book. You can even go further and say how many people are reading the book. Some people might buy the book and not read the book. They might buy the book and put it in the shelf. So they don't actually derive value. You have gotten value, but they have not. The third thing is people paying for a service, right? If you're running a platform like Jumia, the most important thing is that people come on the website and they buy something, right? They buy something that gets delivered to their house. Another thing can be receiving money. So you're a bank. People need to put money in the Kuda Bank app to receive value. Whether the value is they save it, they invest it, or they send it to their mother or their cousin, that one is not your problem. But for the value chain to kick off, they have to receive money. So in activation, we're thinking, how can we make it easier for the user to... can you hear me at the back now? I can't hear you guys now. Okay. Say yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So on the activation side of things, we're working to make sure that the customer receives value at particular points, right? And that we also get value back. And so the marketing activity here is often a lot of education, right? If you downloaded Kuda Bank, which is the example I gave, you have to do what is called KYC before you even receive money. So you want to ensure that people can, one, maybe upload a passport, take a fee, do their NI verification before they start to receive money. Remember, the first thing I said when I talked about activation is this is where things break. So if people cannot complete KYC easily, they can't get value, right? And you find that many companies, especially in financial services, they will allow you to do certain things up to a limit, 20K, you must submit your passport. And what they're often trying to do there is make sure that they get value and you get value, even if you don't have all of those details. It's a very high risk that they take, but they do it just so that you can see some value and hopefully in the future, you can provide those details. Sure, you can provide those details. Activation can be two other things I mentioned on this slide. It can be posting a photo, right? So in a product like Instagram, not everybody is going to post pictures every day. Some people, like my sister, have never posted any picture on their Instagram, but she's very active. So an activation metric can be, do they like a post, right? Do they like a post? Do they follow new people, right? And the one important thing for activation and why I spread out many different examples here is depending on your digital products, the activation metric is always different. So you can't copy somebody else's activation metric. You have to think deep about your product, about what value you provide and how the customer can get value, and then how to measure such value. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. Now we've done awareness, right? We've made noise. We have our customer. The customer has gotten value. The next thing is, how do we keep the customer? Right? We have to keep the customer coming back because remember, this business must not die. If the business dies, it's voila, everybody's going to get sacked. This business that we started today, it must not die. So how do we now do retention? Retention is a process where we start to think about how to keep the customer, right? We want the customer to continue to participate in our digital system. If it's a messaging app, we want them to send more messages. If it's a platform like Instagram, we want them to post and like pictures and come back and open the app, maybe daily, maybe monthly. If it's a money transfer app, we want them to transfer money as often as possible, or we want them to receive money as often as possible. So in retention, we're often thinking, what marketing activity can we do to trigger these events, right? And a lot of my work is in growth marketing. So we are also sometimes thinking, what can we do the product itself that makes it easy for people to keep using the service? One perfect example of this, here you speak vests. If you use Piggy vests, please raise your hands higher now. If you use Piggy vests, do you use Carrywise? Use Carrywise. Okay. One of the most fascinating things about both apps is that you actually don't have to log in to save money. If you set up the automation every month, they debit your account on a particular day at a particular figure. Have you experienced that? Where you're planning to do one jai spending, and they take your money Friday. It's always Friday nights. They take your money on Friday nights, and you can't go out. So what they've done is they've built a retention system. They've educated you about it where you start an automation that they've educated you about it where you start an automation that has an example of retention. So in retention, we're measuring things like how many times do people log into the app? Does anybody here use WhatsApp? How many times have you opened WhatsApp today? No. Why did you open WhatsApp? Does somebody want to say so? Just somebody here. Because you might have messages, right? So even when you don't have messages, you open it in case you have messages. And so measuring how many times you've logged in, right, for products like WhatsApp, or they will also check the length of your active login. So if you've opened WhatsApp, did you spend 5 minutes? Did you spend 2 minutes? Did you spend 10 minutes? The more valuable the product is to the person, the more likely they are to keep logging in, right? So if people keep sending images on WhatsApp every hour or every minute, you're likely to be there. People that do customer support on WhatsApp, they are there 9 to 5, then they close. But they're back again the next day. For an app like Instagram, it can be the number of pictures posted, right? We can ask ourselves that, what is the range or what is the number of pictures posted on average across the entire user base? It can also be how many times money is sent. If it's a money transfer service like, what's an interesting money transfer service? Like Cheaper Cash or some other service, they want to know how many times money is being transferred from one end to the other. Then other things like that. Can we go to the next slide? This is revenue. This is the second most important thing where things also break. In revenue, we're thinking that, okay, we're doing marketing, we're spending money, we're on radio, we're on billboards, we're in the universities, but how do we actually make money? We have to focus on the bit to bring in each cost on naira. And we're only getting 100 out of that 1,000 naira. Are we making a profit or a loss? How big is this loss? It's a very big loss, right? So you also now have to think about revenue. And revenue is earned off many different things. Digital products money off different things. Digital products money off multiple different ways. One can be on purchases. So when people buy something, we take a cut. Another can be on transaction charges. A company like Paystack makes money off transaction. To their own customers. We also want to think about high valued users, right? The more money somebody spends on our platform, how can we encourage them not just to spend money, but how can we bring their friends? Because rich people are friends with rich people, right? So if somebody is rich and they're spending $10,000 a month in our banking app, how can we get them to introduce their colleagues and their friends and their close network to continue to use service? And then the third thing we can do in referral is we use customers, clients, and partners in our content marketing, right? So I don't know if you've watched, PiggyVest has this YouTube series where they interview people about different things in their life. And that's an example of how you can grow referrals by using people who are already your customers. So this is the last slide. I want to take questions. Do I have 5 minutes? Do I have 5 minutes? I just want to know if I have 5 minutes, or do I need to go? Because I need to go and catch the train. Do I have 5 minutes? No 5 minutes. Do I have 2 minutes? Well, I have 2 minutes. Okay, so if there are any questions, you can please come. If there are any questions, I'd like to take them before I leave the stage. So can we say R again? And does everybody remember what it is? Can we go? Thank you. Thank you. I feel like I didn't waste my time. Thank you. Thank you so much. So any questions? We'll take 2 questions and then I'll just get off the stage. If there are any questions at all.
All right, please, we can take 2 questions. If you have a question, Ross, you're smiling like you have a question. Okay, I knew.
Good afternoon. My name is David, and my question is: do we have to have awareness before activation, or activation before awareness, or it could be either way first?
That's a very good question. And so sometimes all these things are happening at the same time. Depending on what it is. Remember that the framework is giving you an idea of what you need to measure for success. You need to measure for success, right? So all of these activities are actually happening at the same time. So I don't know if you've ever seen a Kuda Bank adverts. Have you ever seen a Kuda Bank advert? So you notice that they're making awareness. They're acquiring people to their websites or the downloads. They're getting people to sign up. They're making sure people talk about it with their friends. They're getting revenue, but they're also building multiple other different types of things inside the app, so you can keep using it. So they have loans, they have savings, they have investments, they have some free services as well. So oftentimes, all of these things are happening at the same time. The idea of the framework is to be able to help you think through the entire thing before you now go and launch your products. Yeah? Any other question? Any other question? I'm not going to come back once I go. Any other question? Somebody has a question. Mr. Binance has a question.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Farouk. How do you make your customer reach out to you? You know, there are some customers that once they message you, they will tell you that they will get back to you on a particular product. So how do you make them come back to buy product from you?
Can I answer the question? Oh, sorry.
That's another very good question. So you're saying that we've created awareness now, but we need to keep people in the loop. So one of the things you do is you're constantly educating them. When we talked about acquisition, we said you collect certain data, right? So their name, their phone number. So you have the customer's phone number. So the question is, what systems can you build to make sure that you're updating the customer of maybe new products, new services? How are you keeping them abreast of what's in Lagos I buy food from? They send me a message, right? That's the way that somebody has a retention.
All right, thank you very much. Please, can we applaud our speaker once again? Please, let's applaud him. We can do better than that. Ibadan Tech Festival 2022. Yes, it's been an amazing. We have been reigniting, educating, orientating, informing, and learning. It's been very, very amazing. And ladies and gentlemen, we have our guest comedian in the building. Please, can we applaud Pastor Remote? Please, can we put hands together for him? He's right here. He's right here. I know he's also a tech guy. He's into tech. All right. So before he comes up, we have a panel session. It's going to be very, very brief, but brief, but very impactful actually. So the next panel session is going to be based on personal stories of some of our guests. They will share with us in about 15 minutes personal stories and how we can also navigate what they have gone through and how we can also be very, very effective in all that God has called us to be in the tech field and beyond. So our panelists, number one, I have Olabinjo Adenironi, our first panelist. Please can we applaud Olabinjo? We're having this session for the next 15 minutes. Then after to have our guest comedian. Say Olabinjo Adenironi. Yes, we also have Oremi Jiaka. So she's not here physically, and that means we'll just move on to the next person. The next person is Adewale Aziz. Adewale Aziz, are you here, please? Please let's applaud Adewale Aziz as he comes forward. Yes. Then we have Sheifumi Olaoye. Is Sheifumi still here? Okay, Sheifumi, please let's kindly come forward. It's going to be a very amazing and learning platform. It's our panel session. Yes, you can have your seat. Thank you very much. And the moderator for this session is Moronfolu Olufunke. Moronfolu, please, where are you? All right. Thank you very much. So we're having a panel session to learn and to also connect more effectively. 15 minutes, we're going to have that. Thank you very much.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Okay, so I think we are set now. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for staying to this part of the session. So this is a panel session, and then you get to ask questions. I'll ask them questions, but at the end of the day, you also get to ask them questions too. So a lot of times, for people transitioning into tech, we get to ask people questions. So how has your career been like? But the truth is that when someone is telling you about their career, you also need to know that your journey is always going to be different from theirs because they may have difficult journey. Yours may be easier. They may even have easy journey, but yours may be more difficult. But the main thing there is that you always get to the promised land. You always get to somewhere. So today, I don't need to introduce any of them because they've already been introduced and they've had like wonderful sessions. So now I'm going to start with my first question here. So a lot of times, at least for me, when I was getting into tech, I think one of the things I read a lot was, programming. So now I'm going to ask questions because we have like a digital marketer here, we have a software engineer and a software tester. So I'm going to start the question with the fact that how can you keep yourself relevant and bridge the gap between what the industry wants and what you want? In the sense that the industry is emphasizing a lot on programming, and a lot of times you could see that if you do one or two, you can easily get like an interning job for being a front-end engineer or something. But how can you try and bridge the gap if you really, really want to be a digital marketer? Like, how can you do it, please?
So, can everyone hear me? So, firstly, I'm a growth marketer, and there's a slight difference. But like you mentioned programming, and one of the things to realize is if you're working in tech or in IT or in ICT, is that software or hardware is the foundation of the entire industry. So without it, it doesn't exist, right? So before I started doing a lot of marketing work, I used to program, and that's a whole completely different story. But I had programmed for a while, and I was quite average at it before I, transitioned to some other thing. And what that has done for me is that I understand what everybody's saying in the product team, right? So like nobody can lie. You can't lie to me. You can't bobo me. I know what you're talking about. If the problem is taking too long to solve it, I will solve it. And so it gives one so you don't have to like know all the programming language terms are built and how they work, which you can then translate into whatever job or whatever. One of the other things is that the more you grow in your career and the more you want to be more valuable, you find that it's some code and modify it and send to somebody else on my team, right? And if I didn't know that, I'll be like, I don't know, Oga, can you help me? Do you get? It puts me at a little bit of disadvantage because I come off as ignorant and invaluable. So that's super important. One of my friends recently got a customer support job. She had been doing customer support else. Then she did more supporting tech. And one of them they had to learn in the first quarter SQL. And SQL is basically structured query language. And the reason they had to learn this was because they had to always ask questions to database. So if you didn't know SQL, you can't work that type of job, right? So it's very important to just get a grasp of, regardless of whether you're doing design or you're doing product management. I don't think you can even do product management without understanding software engineering, right? But like a bunch of jobs as you move up the ladder start requiring you to have some technical expertise or some technical knowledge.
Thank you very much. So please, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I think you touched the bulk of the whole thing. One thing I just want to say is tech is hard. Forget tech is hard, but then tech is not hard. It's not hard in the sense that if you really put your heart, if you really put your mind to it, I want to learn this thing. Many times, the reason why people run from tech is I don't want to do programming. Programming is hard. That's not a lie. Programming can be hard, but you know the kind of devotion you give to something you really want to do. And like you said, if you eventually venture into it, and it's not something you want to do, you can drop off. But you know that knowledge sticks with you forever. And again, nobody can bobo you that this is why I can't achieve. This is why I can't give this within this period of time because you already have a technical idea about how that thing should work. You have a say. And to be very honest, as you go in your career, you would see the need to learn programming or to learn how to code, even if it's just the hello word will not suffice. But just the knowledge of knowing what programming is and how it works, it would really, really help in your career ladder. However, I am not saying you must learn programming to be relevant in tech. Not exactly. I didn't start out learning programming. In fact, I started doing software testing because I thought that I would never have to do anything programming in my life. But along the line, nobody told me before I started taking courses on JavaScript and Java just to get an idea of how it works. So you may start out with the non-key bit, but as you go, you would see the need to. If you really love tech, you will see the need to.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to modify the question for you, for our last panelist. So there's this thing about being in tech, and then there's so much you need to learn. You code. I mean, you probably learning something, and then they tell you, oh no, another framework is out there. So how do you bridge the gap between maybe for you just want to stick to your own React, or you just want to stick to your own SQL or C# or something, but then what you want to focus on stroke what the industry wants. Do you get? Thank you.
Okay, so speaking on that, there's this two type of programmer from my own perspective. There's the mediocre programmers and there's the highly efficient programmers. So we have the mediocre whereby they start in a particular software field, right? Then when there's a news that this is what is going on in the industry, this is the new tech, you have to learn Golang to get a kind of job. You have to do maybe C++. Then they start moving from framework to framework, from language to language, without having a full grasp of one particular framework. So those are mediocre. Yes, they might be able to function at their job for that particular things they are doing, but they won't be really good at it. So they won't be able to grow in a particular area because they are literally just going around different fields. But then we have these efficient developers whereby they have just one field they are focused on. But you know that in this field, when there's a problem, when you go to them, they solve the problem for you. Like this is what they completely concentrate on. So even if there's news that this is what is going on in the industry, this is that is going on in the industry, it doesn't affect them because they have a particular goal. They have an aim. They are like before already coming into the industry, they know that okay, I want to be the best in this area. So when they get to that area, they just keep practicing, practicing, practicing. So they are not bothered about this or that. They just keep working on their own
Okay.
area.
Thank you very much. You really answered the question well. So again, I think we've been able to narrow down that a lot of people are just, they're just trying to transition into tech in different regards. So I'm going to ask if there's something you would want to do differently if you are getting into tech, regardless of the area. If what advice would you give someone that is trying to get into it? What are the things that you did that you think you shouldn't have done, or things I feel you should have done better or done more? So I just wanted to, give like a general advice, but I want you to, give like a general advice, but I want everyone to keep it short because I mean, when we begin to say all the things that we went through and things we ought to have refined, we could sleep here. So I want everybody to like give it, simple and straight. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. So if you're coming into tech, right? If you're coming, you first need to me, you need to know what you want, what you're coming to tech for. There are different reasons to come to tech. Most people go to tech just for the money, right? That is literally a valid reason. That is like you. Yeah, that's good. It's not an issue. Like everybody wants a better life. Great. But some people come to tech because they have passion for it. It's like an hobby. And most people that are actually like that are literally people is like an hobby. And most people that are actually like that are literally people that are maybe a very younger age, so they don't have things to worry about. So they just go there for hobby's sake. And then they have people who go there for the sake of the profits. So all these are valid reasons, right? So if I am to start tech from again, I don't think there's really there's something I need to do differently. I might give you an advice that you need to go this route. But just like Adora said earlier, there's really not a direct way to go into tech. If I give an advice that okay, go through this way, but you know yourself better, right? You know that you can handle this part of tech efficiently. Because in tech, right, we have different sections. We have testers, we have engineers, then we have the managers, we have different areas. So designers, right? Thanks. So you need to know that okay, I'm good at designing or at drawing. You know that yourself. You might want to look into designing. Then you have some others who are good at pinpointing. There's an issue in this thing. It should be fixed. You know that your affinity is testing. You understand? Then you have others that they just want to build, 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 build. Then you know that okay, you might be able to function well in software engineering. So you know yourself better. First thing you should do is just look through all the fields available. Then look at what you are good at, and you understand yourself. With that, you'll be able to know which area to come in through, rather than just going through different things and just wasting a lot of times. That's it.
What I'm really just going to say is, so we are in such industry that changes. I mean, tech is not a such stable industry. Things are always changing. There's something else. There's always something new, and to keep yourself afloat in this industry, one thing is constant. You have to keep learning. Whether you want to focus on one thing or you want to do so many things, you just need to keep learning. And you need to stick with the basics, really. For technology, the fundamentals really matter. The basics, the theories really, really matter. And the practicals matter as well. But having an understanding of what the basics are would really help you translate into other things that are coming up, because there is always a fundamental. Before certain new languages came about, there were some languages and those new languages are now built on top of those languages. So one thing I'm just going to say is tech is not a so stable industry. You really need to keep learning. So if you have affinity, what did you call the word now? Affinity for learning, you are in the right space, because it's something you would always have to do. And there's always a solution, even though the truth is you might be debugging one thing for hours and it might really bother you. I mean, it might really drag you to tears.
Yeah,
But
that
either
there's a lot of
ways,
that.
either
That's why I
ways,
stopped
you
programming.
just need you just need to. There's always a solution out there. You're not the first person that will build what you're trying to build. You're not the first person that will find solution to what you're trying to find. So there's always a solution out there. So just keep learning. That's going to be my
Yeah,
advice.
before you move to the next session, let me just add to our point. Like, no matter what problem you're trying to solve when it comes to software engineering, somebody has already experienced that problem. So just keep on asking questions. When you're trying to solve when it comes to software engineering, somebody has already experienced that problem. So just keep on asking questions, then research. You are literally going to get your problem solved.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to say all of the above, but I think I'll say a few things. I think the first is because it's an industry that now has a lot of attention. It's an industry where you have to be very careful. I'm sorry that this is like a doomsday thing, right? But it's an industry where you have to be so careful because there's just so many people who are claiming to be who they are not. I think Adora mentioned it earlier, how somebody can have many followers, but is not a measure of value, right? So you have to do your own research and do your own diligence before you pick any paths or join any company or apply to any job or look up to somebody else. You need to do your own diligence. The second thing I will say is it's an industry that encourages you to keep learning. So if you like learning, like she mentioned, there's so many things you can do. I don't know if I can give one example. So in 2019, I and my friends basically started a VC firm, and we don't have a finance background. We've worked in tech, but we don't have a finance background. So now we wanted to start investing in companies. We also do not have money. So which is a whole other story. But like we're able to take time, a year off, and learn and learn and learn and learn and learn and decide what we wanted to do. And I think that through the bubble of 2020 and 2021, we stood our ground, and we can see a lot of value today after that thing has expanded. And if you're coming into tech in 2022 and 2023, it's probably not the best time because they're sacking a lot of people every day. I don't know if you guys read tech news. They're always sacking people. But it's a good time because now maybe it's less attractive to other people. It's a good time to learn. It's a good time to build. It's always day one. That's what I say.
Thank you very much. I think everybody said a lot. And one thing I picked from everyone is the fact that you have to learn. Like, you can't say, oh, I understand this thing. You just have to continue learning. I have a friend who, every time a new release of the framework he's using comes out, he take off a month to learn it. As in, because if you don't do it, the next interview you may be going for, they may be asking you, so we had a new release, so could you tell us something? They may be asking you, so we had a new release, so could you tell us something about it? And then you're there like dumb. So you have to keep learning and keep learning if you really want to explore this phase. So I'm going to give the audience a time to just ask questions. So please, if you have any questions, please go on and ask. Just maybe one or two questions, please. Okay, please. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Farouk. My question, I studied computer science and I'm passionate about media a lot. So I remember back then when I was in school, I can remember myself going to mass comm department to go and receive lectures due to my passion for media. So what I did then was learn skills that are pertaining to the video editing part. Then I started with that. I also learned audio editing using Adobe Audition and all. So moving on, among my friends, I have list of friends that they are into UI UX product design. So they will be like, Farouk, why don't you come and join product design? And I told them, I don't just, there's this thing telling me that this is your passion. So just try as much as possible, learn skills that are related to media. So I now forge ahead to learn motion design. Motion design. I learned it in Lagos, and currently I'm still learning just to, stay in the industry the more. So my question now is, they are still insisting that I should come and learn this product design. They are still insisting that I should come and learn product design. So what would you advise, based on your experience about tech? Should I still, learn the product design or stick to
Do you know Miss Techie on
Can I
Instagram?
answer? Oh, okay.
Sorry, do you know Miss Techie on Instagram? So she does this video editing where she can come out of a TV and she can, who knows her? She's in the tech industry, but she does a lot of video editing and all. And who has also noticed that she's one of the very rare people who are kind of digital content. So it means that there is there is lack of people like her in that industry, and she's still in tech. So if that's what you want to do, why don't you just invest more into it, and your friends will appreciate your choices later.
Yeah, let me sorry.
I have a devil's advocate's advice for you. So the first thing is you're becoming good at motion design, right? I think you should continue to explore motion design. But you know what I'll do to please your friends? I will try out the product design thing. If I don't like it, I'll stop. That's what I would. If I don't like it, if it's not working out for me and it's not my thing, I'll just stop.
For me, I just want to support your. It's good as you're learning your motion design, right? What me I'm very sure is that after they eventually build their product, right, they'll still need you to do their
They'll
motion
need
design
you.
for them.
They'll need you.
So everybody needs everybody. You know.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please, I want you all to put your hands together for yourselves. Thank you very much. Running up till now. You all try. Thank you very much. All right, so right about now, we're going to be having a very short entertainment session. Very, very effective one. It's very key to this event. As we are learning tech, let's also try to calm down, smile, laugh, and enjoy. All right. So you know him very well. He's one of the most amazing and versatile social media, not just social media, even physical comedian that has been making waves all over. And when he comes, he goes with the catchphrase, "Enikpe." Eh? Eh? Mi ò kí ní dédé rí náà, èyí tí mo bá ti rí kí ni? He's going to come and do it, but don't let me spoil it for remote. He's going to do it for you up himself. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to put your hands together as I welcome one of the funniest, the most versatile comedians in Nigeria, Pastor Remote. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to have your seat. Go and sit down. You are not sitting down yet. Sit down. Have your seat. Good evening. Sorry. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Are we okay? Are we okay? Well done, sir. Well, sir. Well done, ma. Epelema. Well, sir. Well done, ma. Epelema. Ẹkúṣẹ́. Àbọ̀ Ọlọ́run kó dájú. Ẹ lọ ṣoríire. Ẹ lọ níláárí. Ẹ̀ṣmà. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe di fóònù yẹn mú. Nǹkan kan wá bí ìṣẹ́payá. Ẹ má bínú wá. Tí n bá pa ẹja mi, ẹ tí màá rí. Ẹni? Tí màá rí. Yé. Bọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ ẹ ti máa rí. Kábíyèsí. Ẹ kò ṣe máa rí ní ṣùgbọ́n ẹ máa rí tán. Ẹ máa rí díẹ̀. Ọkọ yín ta lẹ́yìn sá wẹ́nà sá ọkọ wọn you are the husband yé mo sì sọ bọ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ you are the one that nice one ẹ sanwó orí No, you get why they ask me. Somebody you paid. Or any obviously. Complete. Wow. 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 You take. Wow. Wait a minute. Is it good in taking? Any? Which aspect of tech? Yeah, man, people going to sorrow. Will I be using your mama to talk? Good evening. I've been sorry. Hey, Chairman. Good afternoon. Once again, right way. Momo, you boy. So, I'm going to be a question like I don't know to ask question that time. What's your problem? Why are you stressed about our what I was working on our panelists? What exactly what are you going through in life? What's my if I am the what do you want if I'm the one that ask you those questions, telling me my own experience to do what? My experience cannot help you. Face your life, face your fear. Decide on you can't go here and be stressing me. God will punish you. If they come at the beard, most show when you go say stressing me. You ask me questions like this. Will you friend blow? At my mic, this country is not going nowhere. You are asking questions. I mean, like I can't advise you. Me advise you or what? You like make it. If you like, don't make it. It's none of my business. I've seen a lot in this life. You don't come here and be stressing me too. I have my own problem. That is why most time when we go and perform outside and people are not laughing. I will be begging you to laugh. If you laugh, God will punish you. I have my problem too. What's my own business? I only pity the organizers because what is a war? Oh, waste it. Danu. So I will be sitting myself. I see some comedians will be shouting, they will be sweating. Mo lè jókòó ṣe lọ́bẹ̀dì ẹ̀ẹ̀kan ní rẹ́rìn lẹ́ẹ̀ni rẹ́rìn kò sí ní tẹ̀sí me stress myself. I've seen a lot in life ojú mi dẹ́n wé ó ti rí tó ìyá ẹ̀ẹ̀kan ní rẹ́rìn lẹ́ẹ̀ni rẹ́rìn kò sí ní tẹ̀sí me stress myself. I've seen a lot in life ojú mi dẹ́n wé ó ti rí tó ìyá jẹ ìyá bàbá ìyá jí mi ní àárọ̀ ọjọ́ Sunday morning ó jí mi bẹ́ẹ̀ ó ní remote mo ní yẹn ó ní wàá fẹ́ kú ó lóun ṣe tán lòun ti dé you don't get it ọ̀tọ̀ ní ìyá máa gé èèyàn o ọ̀tọ̀ ní kí èèyàn máa gé ìyá sórí tíyà tó jẹ ìyá ó yìí dá tíyà tó jẹ ìyá ó yìí dá ṣùgbọ́n tíyà bá ń jẹ my brother tí ìyà tó bá àwọn dé òun fẹ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní jẹ́ kó o tó bọ́ èyí tó wá le jù ní kí ìyàwó gbé hánu. There are different categories of suffering. Oríṣiríṣi ọ̀nà. Some people will drink garri and you put water inside garri and you drinking it immediately. You've made it in life. And why? When we pour water inside that garri, a máa kọ́kọ́ rìn lọ. By the time you come back, it's not as if immediately don't die you want to start drinking it. You pour another water. Hallelujah, somebody. Hallelujah, somebody. Is somebody with me here? Am I preaching to somebody tonight? Are you feeling me? If you're not feeling me, what's even my business? Ajia, wait a minute. Can you please stand up beside Farouk and sit beside someone else? Mommy, boy, is that wrong? Can you sit beside someone else? Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up in Ibadan. Yeah, in Ibadan. This particular Ibadan. I schooled in government college Ibadan. Poly Ibadan. All school. And you Afisheni, and you man jokosi, Afishe, and you don't jokosi. Some of you that you are supposed to sit at the front, oh, pass you waeki, oh, the very pass the tech. When are we going to achieve it in life? ẹ̀yin dá jókòó sí títí tàbí débi tá a wà yìí yóò tún ọ̀nà ló jókòó so that you can make it in life. Government college Ibadan, a very wonderful secondary school, boys only, with erotic. There's one particular teacher I can never forget in my life. Our Yoruba teacher, his name is Sawiri. That is his nickname, and he knows. He's okay with it. This one will be threatening students, be telling students, "Don't let no baby because who are you? I want to know you want to survive it." I stayed in Agegbe. Yeah, Agegbe. You know how far Agegbe is to Apata? Ladies and gentlemen, I will trek it. With that moment, 2-4. You know, yes, sir. I was walking one day. I was trekking with my friends. Ladies and gentlemen, all of a sudden, I was unable to find my shadow. My shadow went to hide under the shade. Start calling my name. Remote, wá. Tó bá ní 15 naira lọ́wọ́ jọ. Èmi náà ní 15 naira. Jẹ́ ká dàpọ̀ ká jọ fi gbọ́ kadà. It was that bad. There was a day I almost go to where is it called? High Court, and I saw my shadow, both my shadow and my friend's shadow, crossing to the other side of the road. Carrying bike and join other people's shadow going on that bike. Those who check their shadow, they were 4 shadows. Hallelujah, somebody. Hallelujah, somebody. Hallelujah, somebody. Am I speaking to somebody here tonight? If you like, don't get it. It's not. If you like, don't get it. It's none of your business. A waste to organizer. It's none of my business. What am I? Are you feeling me? Or you are using me to listen to voice note? Teach us mass. Then you know, when they teach them in normal private school, they will ask you, do you have any question? Like the way you just did, Farouk. Before you know it, 4 students have raised their hand. Yes, auntie, I have a question. So how do we solve this math? Now, if we carry X here, wait, let me explain to you again. They will explain to them again. If they born you well, my teacher should tell you that, do you have any question? If they born your father well, raise up your hand. One particular guy raised up his hand. He said, auntie, yeah, I did not understand. Anyhow. Níbo ló wà ìgbà tí mo ní tá bá mú X mi báyìí? Tá bá mú X mi báyìí? Tá gbé sí ìgbà tó yẹ ti máa kọ yín ẹjọ́ òfòlẹ́ mọ́tò. Mo ní wà gbé wá pa ìwà sápá bí X máa bò bracket ẹ̀ wá tún sí bọ́tà. Ọ̀nà ilé ayé ìbàjẹ́. You will ask question. Ask question. When they teach them Yoruba in private school, they teach them well. Arọ́pò orúkọ. What is arọ́pò orúkọ? What is Olúwa? Olúwa is what? Farouk, Olúwa is what? Kí ló Olúwa? Ṣèbó máa ń bèrè question. Kí ló Olúwa? What is Olúwa? Me go? I can't hear you, speak louder. Ọ̀rọ̀ iṣẹ́ orí etí. Olúwa ní ọ̀rọ̀ iṣẹ́ kọ́. Ọ̀rọ̀ èèyàn ni. Ṣé wọ́n lè mọ tó ṣe? And you are here disturbing our panelists, stressing them. Who is speaking? I know ọ̀rọ̀ iṣẹ́ is an action word. Come on. Yes, ọ̀rọ̀ iṣẹ́ is an action. You hear something like this. Now, you now dash. Did you get issue? They will not say, Iwo, kí ni ọ̀rọ̀ iṣẹ́? Is what?